Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are super duper excited about our Black History More Than Just a Month event. Sorry for the couple-minute delay. We're going to jump right into it here. Thanks again for the patience, and I'm looking forward to the next 45 minutes. I hope you all are too. So before we begin here, sorry, I'm just going to make sure we're all muted so that we can hear everybody properly. I'd love to begin with a land acknowledgement. So for me, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining on Treaty 6 territory. This is a traditional meeting grounds, gathering place, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. I would also like to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we're on today, as we're meeting on a virtual platform that covers many different lands and territories. We do a land acknowledgement to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and in improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. We must, as a people, be committed to establishing and maintaining relationships with not only the Indigenous people of our lands, but all of the people of marginalized groups who share the lands that we call home. We can all take time in our own lives to move from allyship in a place of privilege to becoming more of an accomplice in a change at an institutional level. And I'm hoping that the event today will inspire youth participating to take action in their own lives. And I'm sure with the amazing speakers that we have today, that should not be difficult to do. So today we have some great speakers. First off, I would love to introduce CC UNESCO, who was able to find our wonderful speaker, Arthur C. Amati. And we're also going to have some youth perspective from fellow Canadian youth, Courtney. And then we'll have some time at the end for some facilitated discussion if you guys have any questions. So before I throw it over to CC UNESCO, I would love to introduce them. We're joined today by our partners at the Canadian Commission for UNESCO. So CC UNESCO helps Canadians share knowledge locally and globally in order to create better societies and build peace in the minds of all people. To do so, the Commission facilitates cooperation in the fields of education, science, culture, communication, and information to address some of the most complex challenges facing our world today. So Isabel, I'll throw it over to you to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Rebecca. It's such an honor to be here. I'm joining you from unceded Algonquin territory in Ottawa. It's quite busy here. It's quite a hot spot. But you're all welcome to come visit. I'm really excited about this event with this Center for Global Education. I coordinate a national UNESCO schools network, and every year we organize student video conferences like this to connect schools across Canada, but also to connect globally. So I see we have even some international representation here. And basically with UNESCO, we definitely have been an intersectoral priority for youth leadership. So it's always great for these events to have amazing youth leaders, and then also fighting and addressing systemic racism. So last year, actually, we launched with the Global Center for Pluralism a project about teaching, talking about racism in the classroom, and it was a teacher training on that, which came up with some resources for teachers, and really talking about anti-Black racism, a policy brief that presented to ministries of education across Canada. And now we're working through these recommendations, and we're actually working with a consultancy firm based in Toronto, Turner Consultants, who is actually doing a review of all the curricula in every province and territory from an anti-Black racist perspective of Black representation, but also the stories that we tell. So we are trying to work at this on a systemic global level, but it also starts with conversations like this today. So I'm really excited to hear our speakers, and very excited Arthur from our youth advisory group is also joining us, who's a really great leader about all the work that he does in his community. And to the other speaker too, hello, Courtney.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. Sounds like you guys are doing a lot of awesome work over there. And I am also very excited for today's event. I made sure that Arthur didn't tell me all of the secret stuff he was going to go over because I wanted to be surprised. It's going to be great. So before we get going with our speakers, I did just want to take a minute to welcome all the schools that are joining us. We had such an outpouring of people that were interested in this topic. So we've got a huge list of schools that are joining us here live on the Zoom, but also on our YouTube page. So hello to everybody over there on YouTube. So for our schools, tons of homeschools across Canada and actually in the United States as well. We've got ESE from Portugal joining us. School number 1576 from Moscow, Russia. Sahali Secondary in Kamloops, Canada. RDPS in New Delhi, India. Welcome back, guys. Canyon Falls Middle School in Kelowna, Canada. Lacombe Comp in Lacombe, Canada. Seavid School in Ifo, Nigeria. We've got Bayview Glen in Toronto, Canada. Queen Elizabeth High School in Edmonton, Canada. Spruce Grove Composite High School in Spruce Grove, Canada. Delval from Delval, USA. Pickering College in Newmarket, Canada. Wandering Spirit in Toronto, Canada. Queen's Royal College all the way from the Port of Spain in Trinidad. Eden High at St. Catharines, Canada, and Rosse Park in Rosse, Canada. So welcome to everybody here. If you're joining us and I missed you on the list, I'm very sorry, but welcome to you as well. Before we get going, just a couple little reminders. If you have a question during the event, that's awesome. That's why we do these events. We want to have lots of questions. We want to have lots of discussion. Just make sure that you either type your question in the chat at the bottom and we'll take a look at it and pass it forward to our speakers, or you have the option of using your little hand raise emoji at the bottom of the screen. So I can't always see all of the cameras, so raising your hand on camera doesn't work great. But if you click the little hand raise option at the bottom, then I'll know you have a question and I'll call on you to go ahead and ask. But anytime throughout the presentation, if you have any questions or on YouTube, just feel free to type them in the chat and we will go ahead and forward that to our speakers. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our first speaker. So Arthur C. Ahmadi is the head of Vision and Global Youth Mobilizer at Youth and Diaspora. He helps organizations and governments unite young people for nation building and national development. The purpose of Youth in Diaspora is to empower, mobilize, and unite young people of African descent to obtain the necessary resources to be represented in various sectors as leaders and to solve the world's most complex challenges locally and globally. He is also the recent director for youth engagement at Canadian Association of Urban Financial Professionals, an organization providing a link between corporations and African professionals in the Canadian economy. He is a recent Black Diplomats Academy Fellow, and he currently is a youth advisor at the Canadian Commission for UNESCO. He believes that the African diaspora has a role in solving problems for their communities locally, the continent of Africa, and the Caribbean. He is certain that a committed group of young people can and will change the world. So welcome, welcome, Arthur Ahmadi. We are very excited to hear what you have to say, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the kind words. We can stick to the first slide for now, the one just with the picture. I'll let you know when we can, move forward.
Sounds good.
But yes, thank you, Isabel, for the warm welcome as well. I'm grateful to be here. It's really an honor and a privilege being here with everyone. I also want to thank everyone who's here, all the young people all around the world. It's a Tuesday afternoon. You could have been anywhere, but you decided to spend it with, guess who? Me. So I really appreciate it. And also Courtney, not only me, but Courtney. I think more important to me actually is Courtney. I'm super excited to hear what Courtney has to say today. I'm always happy and excited when we have young people, especially young women coming up and sharing their story and giving us some insight to their life. So I think without further ado, I would like to dive right into it, like they would like to say. So we can go into the first slide, and just for everyone on the call, all the young people. When I mean young, I mean under, I think, 24. So if you're over 20, I'm joking. We're all young over here. But for everyone from school right now, if you're here, I just want to let you know that you actually have a chance to win a prize, a $50 gift card at the end of this Zoom call. Coming from me, you have a chance to win a $50 gift card. So let's see who is going to win it. I see a lot of lovely people in the chat. I'm looking at Noah, Zavi, Camor from Alberta, Simone from Brampton, Muriel, Alberta, Spruce, Camrose, Lorraine. I'm seeing a lot of people. So who's going to be the lucky winner? Let's see who it's going to be. So I want to start a little bit with some of my story before we dive right into it with Black history and some of the amazing figures who Canadian history by being people of African descent. And on the slide here, you can see that information changes situation. This was one of the things that helped me, really accelerate my life to being where I am today. I help governments and organizations unite young people for nation building. Like Rebecca said, I'm a youth advisor for CC UNESCO, former, youth engagement director for Canadian Association of Urban Financial Professionals. Just living a life of service and of impact to help, people move forward in life. And early on, when I was around, your age in high school, I heard this saying that information changes situation. And right now, I'm about to share some information that can literally change the way you think for the rest of your life. It can direct the way of your next 2022, your 2023, your 2024, up until when you get to university. So I would suggest you pay a little bit of attention. You don't have to pay a lot of attention, but just a little bit of attention, because sometimes all you need is just that little nugget, and it can help you for the rest of your life. So what is the first line that it says here? It says, one person can change the course of your life for the better or worse. And this was the case for me, a young man, named Bob Proctor. He just passed away, God bless his soul. But he taught me that, Arthur, your thoughts create your actions, and your actions create your results. So you can think you want to do something, but you also have to work. You also have to act. You also have to do things. And then you can get results. Life just doesn't happen by sitting in a chair and just thinking, positive things. You actually have to act. You have to do something. And then the second thing I put there is you should pay attention to who you listen to, and be careful who you take advice from. Now, I say this with all due respect and humbly, because there are a lot of, people today that call themselves influencers. There are people on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, and some of them actually don't know what they're saying. And if you're not careful, you might listen to the wrong person, and you might get into the wrong group of people or the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's not something you'd want to do. So I would suggest for you to be careful who you listen to. If someone is not going the path that you want to be in the next 3, 5, 10 years, I would suggest kind of stay, love them from afar. Love them from afar. That's what I'll say. And be careful who you take advice from, even if it's people who think they're close to you. And education, I'm at CC UNESCO, and we're all about education. But I also want to bring a different perspective, that education is not just what happens in a classroom, right? There's the formal education and there's the self-education. Jim Rohn, my mentor who passed away now, American entrepreneur, Jim said, self-education is very powerful, because formal education, it can make you, a living. It's fine. You can get a job, but he said self-education, reading books, paying attention to different personal development, different people, that will earn you a fortune. So if you really want to stand out and be different, which is something I'm going to speak about today, I would really suggest that, you work on yourself. If you haven't read a book this year, pick up a book, try to read something that will help grow you as an individual. So first thing, on paying attention who to, take advice from, and education, is you can learn from anyone. And you can learn from me, you can learn from your colleagues, you can learn what to do from someone, and you can learn what not to do. It's very simple. Anybody can teach you. A little kid can teach you, a very old person can teach you. Just be open-minded to learning from anybody. And education not happening in the classroom. I talk about YouTube University, one of the most powerful places that I've learned a lot of information, again, from the right people, being careful who I listen to. And it's good to have that formal education and your degree. Some of you are going to university soon. And I just want to let you know that you are more than your degree. Your degree is not going to define you. There are a lot of people who have degrees, who have amazing degrees, multiple degrees, and even, masters, MBAs, and, they love their degree, but the degree doesn't define them. What the world, the real world, the outside world, what the world cares about is value and results. If you can add value to people, you can add value to people's lives, you can solve problems, you can provide solutions. That's what the world cares about. And as long as you have that, you'll be fine. So don't get too stuck on your degree, because you'll find out, once you're out of university, everyone has a degree. So it's okay. Don't stress too much. And last thing on this slide I want to really touch on is that knowledge is not power. It's powerful. A lot of people, say this thing and they throw it around that knowledge is power, knowledge is power, knowledge is power. No, at a young age, I used to hear that too, but over time I realized knowledge is not power. It's powerful. It's amazing. But like I said before, with what Bob said, thoughts, actions, results. The real power comes in the application. So if you can apply that knowledge that you have, that's where the real power comes. So applied knowledge is power, and that's what wisdom is. So if we can go to the next slide, because today I just want to share. Oh, sorry. Maybe if we can go back before we get to Jeane. Today I just want to share with you a couple things that your teachers. Sorry if any teachers listening, today. What your teachers won't tell you in school. We'll do a different sort of education today. I want to give you an unfair advantage. All I think about 13 people from high school that are in here. I want to give you an unfair advantage that helped me to get to where I am today. As you're getting to the next stage of your life, finishing high school, into university, middle school. One of the things that I've learned over time is that relationships are powerful. Who becomes your friend for the next 5 years, 10 years? It can really influence where you become. It can really influence who you become. It can really influence where you end up, right? Relationships are God's best gift to anyone. If you can have great relationships, whether that's in your family, with your friends, with your colleagues, very, very important. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that I've been able to have today is powerful relationships. Grateful for people who've come into my life, who have been able to add value to their life. So just be careful of the relationships you have. Also, money is important. I don't think they talk about this a lot in school. I wish I learned this, in school by myself, but my teacher didn't tell me that money was important. I don't know why, but I'm telling you all now, money is important. It's really important. It's very important. People today die because of no money. It's unfortunate. Some people don't eat because of no money. Some people can't sleep because there's no money. Some people are in the hospital because there's no money. So it's important. But more importantly, money is not everything. You need money to survive. You need money to get by. But money won't solve all your problems in life. Money is not going to make you happy. It's not going to do that for you. There needs to be something that you commit yourself to, doing past money, which I believe today is one of the reasons why I'm here. And that's service. That's leadership. That's adding value to people's lives, solving problems, finding solutions for the problems in the world. There are lots of problems in the world, so many problems. We see what's going on right now with climate change. We see what's going on right now in the health sector. A lot of problems in the world, right? The other thing is that with the problems comes people like everyone here, young, bright minds that we all have. We can add value to the world. We can add value to our economy. We can add value to Canada and solve problems. But you can't give what you don't have. If you don't have, the knowledge, if you haven't worked on yourself, if you haven't gotten that education, you can't really solve problems for other people. So if there's anything today, before I get into some of the leaders that have shaped Canadian history, being people of African descent, I want to be part of your story, because Bob, who just died, Bob Proctor from Canada as well, he's part of my story. I talk about him everywhere I go now, and it's because of what he told me when I was 15. I decided to do, something a lot of people, wouldn't do, which was get into entrepreneurship, and started a media company doing photography and videography at a young age. So if you're here, one of the ways you can be different from most people in the world is see if you can solve a problem where people can pay you to do the work, and go down the line of entrepreneurship, because that's how wealthy people get started, or that's how wealth is created, by solving problems, usually through entrepreneurship. And also, I would also suggest not to spend too much time on just money or just formal education. Try to work on yourself, grow, because there's a reason why you're here. There's a reason why you're in Canada. There's a reason why, you're here at this time. There's something you're meant to solve. There's a problem you're meant to solve. And there's problems all over where you can solve. And today, if I just inspire one person to go down, or go up their path of greatness, to me, which I believe is a path of leadership, and path of service, I think done my assignment today and done a good job. But I just don't want anyone on this call here to end up average. None of you here should end up like everyone else. Being part of this call, I would really hope one day, I would see you somewhere, maybe downtown Bay Street, and you say, hey, Arthur, I remember, for Black History Month, you spoke and you actually inspired me to start a business. And now I have 5 employees that are working with me, and we've been able to solve problems for some homeless people on the street. I would be amazed. I would give you a big hug if you allowed me to, right? So you have the power to create change. You have the power to create change, and the world already has too much normal people. So please don't end up average. Be outstanding. Be different. Stand out. The world needs more leaders. The world needs more servant leaders, and you have the power to create that change. So as I wrap up, if we could go to the next slide with Jeane. One of the things, maybe Rebecca, if you can stop sharing the screen before I talk about Jeane, this would be a great way for me to, speak to some of the work that we can also push at CC UNESCO and globally as young people in Canada, especially. I know we have people from all over the world, but in Canada specifically, I went to high school, middle school in Canada, and the lady that just was on the screen, Honorable Jeane Augustin, I never met her until I think about 2020. I didn't know about her until 2020. I didn't know she existed. And she was the first woman to be elected into Canadian Parliament. You see, I learned about, some people who allegedly discovered some places when I was in high school. I won't mention any names. I'm sure some of you on this call know some of them. I learned about a lot of people who discovered different things, a lot of different sorts of history. But it was very interesting, me being a young person of African descent in Canada and not learning about anyone of African descent in my class. So if there's anyone on the call today who maybe, could suggest something, maybe could solve a problem, I think something could be interesting to find out. Is there a way for us to find people of African descent who are Canadians, who've done amazing work, who've done amazing things, so that they can be taught in our classes while we're growing up in middle school and high school? I think it would be awesome. So let me share a little bit about, 1 or 2 people. Honorable Jeane Augustin. She was the first woman of African descent to be elected into Parliament. So as we say here, Jeane Augustin is a trailblazing politician, social activist, and educator. She's the first African Canadian woman to be elected to the House of Commons and the first African Canadian woman to be appointed to the federal cabinet, and also the first Fairness Commissioner of the Government of Ontario. Jeane is an amazing individual. I met Jeane at the Friends of Africa Summit, which is led by Dr. Olutoni Oyelade, CASA Foundation for International Development. And she was so amazing. She was so amazing that I even offered to give her a ride and drop her home. And she was so grateful. And till today, I keep in contact and in touch as much as I can with Honorable Jeane Augustin. She's an amazing, amazing, amazing individual. Somebody who has gone above and beyond, who has set the path for young people of African descent, especially young women of African descent here in Canada. So I would suggest, if you have some time and you're interested, read a little bit more about Madame Jeane Augustin. She's a great, great, great individual, great woman, and she's doing some amazing work. There's some work that her foundation does as well. Something to check out. So as I'm wrapping up and handing over back to Rebecca, I think the next person we have on our slide is Wes Hall. So Wes, if you might have seen him on Dragon's Den, maybe recently, but Wes is a founder and chairman of the Canadian Council of Business Leaders Against Anti-Black Systemic Racism and the Black North Initiative. So what happened when George Floyd was murdered, in 2020, there was a lot of things that happened globally in the world at that time. One of them being the Black North Initiative, which Wes Hall founded. And the Black North Initiative was founded to remove anti-Black systemic racism that affects, the lives of Black Canadians specifically in in the works in the workforce and in the government as well. But prior to that, Wes was the founder of Kingsdale Advisors, advisory firm, um, and he has an unparalleled, record of success with all of the massive companies, in Canada. He's really sought out for the work he does. Now, I remember last year a Black entrepreneurship class with Wes, and it was amazing. He was my professor. Remember, I said earlier, you can learn from anyone. You can learn from anyone. And I was fortunate to learn from Wes, to learn his story. If you have time, I would also recommend, watching his YouTube video. There are a lot of YouTube videos about Wes. One that goes into the depth of the story. He grew up humble beginnings. You can see him downtown now, Bay Street, looking all fresh. Red Ferrari. I think he lives on. I don't know. I know it's some wealthy community downtown, maybe close to Bayview, but he really started from humble beginnings. He wasn't like this, and it was through entrepreneurship that he got to where he is today. So same thing I would suggest to any young person, again listening, getting into entrepreneurship. At U of T, West spoke about using entrepreneurship as a way to fight real estate to fight systemic anti-Black racism. And West has done a lot in the community here in Canada, and it's been an amazing, opportunity to be able to be taught by him and have interactions with him. So just a couple of the leaders, figures. There are a lot more, Madam C.J. Walker, Isaac Alualafi. There's a lot of young, even up and coming, Black figures. But these two I thought would be the most important to share today, given the work Jeane has done and the work Wes is currently doing with the Black North Initiative. So thank you so much. And again, like I said earlier, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of problems in the world to solve, and the world needs more leaders. And I would urge everyone on this call to find that thing that makes them kind of angry, kind of frustrated, that will lead them to their purpose, and allow them to solve a problem for the world globally. Not only that, but also understanding that money is important, but it's not everything, and that you can learn from anybody. You can learn what to do, you can learn what not to do, but more importantly, that your relationships is what matters. Not just the money, the relationships, the relationships you have with your family, with your friends, and the problems that you can help solve, for the world. So a little bit about Youth in Diaspora before I close. We're a for-purpose, youth-led charitable organization, grassroots leadership movement, empowering youth of African descent in the socioeconomic development of their local communities. And right now, we're focusing on education in a community called Makoko. It's in Lagos, Nigeria. I didn't want to show it today because we're more focused on the Black History Month, but we help underprivileged children. There's some children that actually don't have access, abilities to be educated. They don't have, teachers that can teach them. There's not enough infrastructure. There's not enough, funding for them to actually go to school. So we just help get them, off the streets and back into school. Nigeria has 13.2 million children that are out of school. So that's almost half of Canada's population. And that's a little bit about Youth in Diaspora, what we do. But today, again, like I said, I just wish that if I could just inspire one person to go up their path of greatness, which is for me the path of leadership, the path of service, and I'm fulfilled today. So again, please don't be average. The world already has too many normal people. Be outstanding, be different, stand out. You're special. Don't let anyone else, tell you otherwise. And you have the power to create change. So, go out into the world and create that change. Thank you so much. Back to you, Rebecca.
Awesome. Wonderful message. We had a few people sharing that they think this is a great message. I'm hoping people are starting to feel inspired by it. That was wonderful to hear. Just a reminder, guys, before I throw it over to Courtney to share her story with us, if you do have any questions for Arthur about Youth in Diaspora or some of the things that he's involved in, feel free to pop them in the chat. That way we'll be able to have them ready when we start our discussion piece. So think about if you have anything that you would like to pick his brain about while I introduce our next speaker. So our next speaker is Courtney Kahn. So she is a student at David Suzuki Secondary School in Brampton, Ontario, where she's involved in many student clubs. Courtney is the president of both the United Souls Black Student Association and the Model UN. She's also a council member for the Peel Board Black Student Association Alliance and the We Rise Together Student Advocacy Council. On top of this, she is a student ambassador and a member of the David Suzuki and Heart Lake Family of Schools Black Advocacy Steering Committee. Courtney hopes to pursue a bachelor's in commerce degree and attend law school in the future. So I will pass it over to you, Courtney, and you can go ahead and share with us some of the great things that you're working on in your school.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. And thank you for having me. So I want to begin with talking about my main work in high school, which Rebecca did mention, and that is the Black Student Association. So my main work in high school has been centered around Black advocacy, and I do that specifically through Black student associations and advocating for Black student associations in schools board-wide and also nationally, which is what we're doing here today, what I'm doing here today. And I overall believe it's imperative that in a time like 2022, even in a time like the 1990s, which was about 40 years ago, that Black student associations were imperative and are imperative today. And this is because of the Black student experience being so unique, and it is unique because of those historical systemic barriers that the Black community has faced generationally, which has caused generational trauma within the school system. So because of these barriers we face continually, it makes it very important that Black students have a direct line to a support system. And this is what Black student associations do. So on this slide, you can see some of the things that we have done as a Black student association. And overall, it's about Black students sharing their cultural identity. And it's also about them advocating for the things they see missing within their school system, and also allowing them just to have that leadership voice. And kind of that voice that Arthur previously spoke about is that if you see something that needs changing, you should be the one to make that change, especially as a Black student, because we understand the experiences of other Black students. So we're the best individuals to say, hey, I think that this needs to change. This is how you could do it. Can I recommend this to you? And that's what students have the ability to do when they work in a Black student association. So before I begin, if you don't have a Black student association at your school, you can use some of these things that I'm talking about. Think about starting one in your school. If you're a student, take that initiative, go to a higher up and be like, I don't see this in my school. Could we have this? And I actually spoke to Courtney, and these are some of the things that they do at their school. And you can feed off of this. I'm not saying that this is only something that we can do here at David Suzuki. This is for everyone. And as a community, we can build together so that we see more Black student associations globally. We could start nationally, we can start provincially. We just have to start somewhere. So we're called United Souls. I kind of always come and rep in our t-shirts. That's another thing. Find a catchy name so you can tell people we're United Souls, or you can tell people whatever your Black student association is named, kind of brand yourself. That's a good thing to do. But yeah, we're United Souls. And on the slide here, you can see some of the things that we do as a Black student association at the School of David Suzuki. So the first 2 to 3 photos, they're actually our Black History Month assemblies. Because of COVID, we haven't been able to do them in the past 2 years. But moving on from COVID, because we will be moving on, I'm making sure that I'm speaking very positively because I'm trying to get out of COVID. I know you are too. But yeah, so moving on, we will be able to hold Black History Month assemblies. And as you can see, there's a space where students can voice who they are, their cultural identities, and their Black experience. So the first photo, you have a dance hall group. They're doing traditional Jamaican dance hall. They're doing dance hall dancing, and they're performing in front of the whole school, whatever classes want to come out and watch. And then the second photo, that's actually me. I might look a little different, but that's me in the middle. And apart from all the things that Rebecca discussed that I do, I forgot to mention that I also have a fashion line, a clothing brand. So I was able to take my entrepreneurship and display that within the Black History Month Assembly. And that's why BSAs are so important, because Black students can bring in their talents and showcase those talents and really uplift those talents, and it instills confidence. So that that fashion show is the first fashion show I've ever done. And I was able to do it through my BSA, and I gained confidence by doing that. And that's what we want for Black students. We want to uplift them. We want to give them confidence. Now, the next photo is something that we do every year during February, which is Taste of Soul. And you can see, I believe this is one of our BSA students. She's praying over her food because she knows it's gonna nourish her. She's gonna feel good after eating this. But this is another way that we show cultural identity. Is we have once a month. Once a month we have Taste of Soul, where we display a cultural food. And here we displayed a traditional Jamaican dish, which was jerk chicken and rice and peas, as well as with plantain. And students all across the school have the opportunity to buy that food and indulge in some cultural Jamaican food. And then some of the other things that we do that are not pictured are peace talks. And what a peace talk is we bring Black male students and Black girl students and into different rooms, and we allow them to have workshops where they talk about self-love, self-identity, and self-advocacy. And it's really a safe space for Black students to discuss their wants and needs, discuss what they're not seeing, what they want to see, and also discuss the change that they want to make. And overall, just a safe space to divulge and just take off that mask and feel a togetherness. In a lot of our peace talks, we have students that break out in tears because they feel so at home in a space with other Black students. And that's what we want for Black students, because we know the barriers that Black students face are so very unique. So they need somewhere they can come and just be themselves. And that's what the BSA does through what we call peace talks. And we try to do one every semester so that students that may not be a part of the BSA can still join in on BSA workshops, right? And those are exclusively for Black students. But some of the stuff that we do for students that are not of color or students that are not of African and Caribbean descent are actually staff workshops and student workshops. And I feel like these are the most important things when it comes to Black student advocacy, because as a BSA, it has allowed us to teach the teachers how they can create environments that are inclusive and diverse. And I want to bring it back to something that Arthur actually spoke about. He talked about not seeing curriculum in school that represented us. So as a Black Student Association, we have actually gone in and done workshops for staff across Peel. And nationally, as well as provincially, we've done workshops and we've said, okay, you need to find a way within your teaching style that is inclusive and will bring in other students of color's representation. Because studies show that when you see yourself in your learning, you learn much better. You learn at a higher level. And I can actually say that with these workshops, I have begun to see the change in our school. Just 2 days ago, I can say that my science teacher, Mr. Ellis, he did a whole presentation, not a presentation, but he had part of his lesson was about epigenetics and how oppressive trauma, which is a huge thing within the Black community because of generational trauma, can have changes in your DNA. I'm just trying to think back, learning it with epigenetics and stress or generational trauma, which you know the Black community has excruciatingly faced, has issues with their DNA. So it's just about tying together Black experience or other experience from other cultures within things you're learning so that the faces that you're seeing in your classroom can actually feel represented and connect all these things together. And that's what we have done as a BSA. We go around, we do workshops, and we teach the teachers how they can do this, because sometimes you don't know, or you don't even realize that you're discluding someone. So it's our job, the job of the teachers, the job of the students, for us to come together and say, okay, we're not seeing this. We feel like this can help us. Is there a way that you can include this? Is there a way that you can include us? Right? So that's what we've done with staff workshops. And then when it comes to student workshops, we also do the same sort of thing for students. We teach them that you can be your own leader, you can stand up for yourself, and you can teach the teachers. So we try to teach students about self-advocacy and how they can be their leaders in the change they want to see. And then the last thing that we are really big in doing is just student voice. So we do leave outside of David Suzuki and we go to other schools. We go to board-wide events and also national events like this one. Right now I'm here representing my BSA, and we give advice board-wide. I don't know if you know, but in the Peel District School Board ourselves in 2020, we had an anti-Black racism review, and our BSA, members of our BSA, were a part of the team of students that contributed to that review. So we are able to take our experiences and give our experiences to the reviewers so that they can write something about the betterment of the Peel board. So we actually take student voice and advocate for student voice so that change can be made. And overall, that's what a BSA does. It's about leading Black students to change so that they can see something better than what is already there. And if you don't have a BSA at your school, it's definitely imperative at this time now, today, you need a BSA. It's not even a question. It's just something that is highly important that needs to be there. Yeah, that's it for me. If you have any questions, I will be here at the end, and I will love to answer your questions, especially if they're about how you can start BSAs in your school, because I want to see them and they need to be there.
Yeah, it does sound, Courtney, like you've already gotten some people interested in starting one, because we have a question here from Camrose Comp that are wondering, is there a teacher that sponsors your group, or where should they start if they would like to start one? And then a follow-up question, do you get nervous when you have to go in front of people when you do things with your group?
I'm nervous right now. Anxiety is a natural part of life. So yes, you get nervous, but you have a breakthrough. There's a breakthrough moment where you're okay. You're just talking. You're just talking. You talk every day. So you'll be okay. Again, as Arthur explained, if you have the knowledge, you can use it. It's powerful. And if you know what you're talking about, the anxiety goes away. But yeah. And then to the first question, yes, we do have teacher sponsors. So if you know a teacher that is highly supportive to you, you can go to them. I'm not sure how it works in every school board or school system, but I know in the Peel board within my own school, you need a teacher representative, and you can ask that teacher, do you have the free time to run a club like a BSA? Is that something you'd be interested in? And they can either say yes or no, and then they can bring it to their higher ups and get the club approved. But yes, usually we do have a teacher sponsor. As of now, because a BSA we do all these things, we actually have 4 teacher sponsors as of now. The previous years, we had 1 to 2 teacher sponsors. It just depends on what your school needs. But our BSA does a lot of things, so we needed the big support system, so we came in with 4 teachers.
Yeah, that sounds great. I love the message of, it's not, should we start a BSA at our school? You should start a BSA at your school. It's how can we do it? So that's awesome. Arthur, this next one is, I can throw it over to you. How can I, as a person who is not of color or someone who comes from a place of privilege, create change?
Okie dokie. So how can I, as a person who's not of color or doesn't come from a place of privilege, create change? So one thing that's really thrown around when this question is brought up is this term called allyship. And I want to be careful how I answer this, but what I will say is that if you really want to create change, you really have to try, and this is a key word, try to understand if you have any friends of African descent, their perspective. That is the first thing you really have to do. Because if you don't understand their perspective, no matter how much you think what you're doing can help, you might be adding more fuel to the fire by just doing it. I'll give a story. There was this village, I think in Kenya, and some people from the Western world came and they went through the village, right? Not from the village. And they went into the village. They saw these women, walking like, I think it was almost an hour to go get water, to fetch water in a bucket. And they saw it and they were really heartbroken. They were touched. They really wanted to create change. They really wanted to help. So they said, wow, what can we do? These women don't, they have to walk such a long way, to get water, and we really want to help them get water. What can we do? Oh, we can make a well for them. So what did they do? They came together, they fundraised, and they built a well. They built a well, and then they showed them how to use the well, and then they left. Let's say they came back to Canada. Let's just use Canada for example. Lucky Canada. They came back to Canada. Anybody want to guess what happened when they went back to the village in 2 years? Anybody? Anybody want to guess? Take a wild guess. Oh, no one's guessing. Okay, I'm gonna help everyone guess. So what happened was they saw a lot of garbage in the well. They saw garbage, they saw maybe plastic bags, leaves, and they were confused. Like, you were walking an hour, 2 hours to get water. We brought a well for you. Like, we helped you solve your problem. Why aren't you using the well? And after they did what they should have done, what I said earlier, try to understand, if you have friends of African descent, their perspective. When they spoke to the women said, we stay with our husbands all day. We don't want to stay in the house. We want to leave the house. And us getting water, spending an hour, 2 hours, gives us time away from our husbands, allows us to spend time with one another. So we don't want the well. So I say that jokingly, but it's an important story because it hits the point home of, sometimes when you're not from a specific background, you look at a solution, you look at a problem, and you think whatever you think is the solution or is the right solution, but sometimes it's not really what the people want. So my first, high level suggestion would be, if you have friends of African descent, really try to understand their perspective and what bugs them, what hurts them, why are they speaking out? Why is there such an outrage? And the second thing, which I think will be more concrete for you, if you don't, or if you do have the friends, try it. If you don't have the friends, try and make friends or be open, to people of African descent. Try to get, make a friend. And if you do have a friend, from your point of privilege, back to what I said earlier, from entrepreneurship, especially in the way we are today, money is important. So if you have a friend or a cousin or an uncle or an aunt who works in a place where there are a lot of people that don't look like your friend of African descent, maybe you could talk to them and say, hey, is it possible to have my friend work in your team or in your work, or have an internship? Try to get them into an opportunity that can give them an economic advantage, because that's what has been missing a lot in the community, is access. And there's a door, and when you're on the other side of the door, if you don't break it down, if you want to be diplomatic like me and you want to smile, right, you need someone from the other side to open the door for you. And a lot of the times, the people who have the key and the lock to the other sides of the door don't look like people like us. So that would be my suggestion. One, try to understand their perspective. And two, if you can create access for them, if you can open a door, try and open the door. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I would just like to add, if you guys are interested in that idea that he kind of mentioned about allyship, if you ever look up the difference between ally and accomplice, it's kind of a big thing that you can find, especially with a lot of BSA groups nowadays kind of focus on it. So that might be something you guys might want to look into, that kind of touches a little bit more on that idea of how can you actually do real help if you're coming from a place of privilege. There was
Sorry, Rebecca.
Yep.
I just wanted to add, what Rebecca mentioned is something that West Hall has done really well, just to give, if there's anyone on the call that wants to kind of see what that looks like. Wes, because of the people he has worked with, like I mentioned earlier, he's been able to speak to his friends. Remember, I spoke about relationships earlier. People who he's added value to, help them solve problems, and mention what he's gone through. And they've been able to open the other side of the door and let him in. So I think it's something, for us to also celebrate someone who's been very active in creating strong allyship with the community that I would say have the key and can open the door.
Yeah, that sounds great. There was one question here from Muriel Martin that I just want to make sure that we touch on because not everybody has access to the chat. So if you could speak to this again, they had the question in the United States, police violence led to the official recognition of Juneteenth. Does the Black Canadian community have a Juneteenth celebration? And does Canada need one?
Does Courtney want to take a stab, or should I go first? Courtney, you let me know. Do I go first or do you go first?
I can answer the first part. We don't recognize Juneteenth here as a national holiday. And I do believe that we should have some recognition. We do recognize Black History Month, not nationally, I would say, like on a federal level, but I would say that we do need some sort of recognition here. Often Canada can be looked at as this happy place where there's no oppression and we're just perfect here, but there is oppression and there is historical oppression, and I agree, it does need to be recognized.
Awesome response, Courtney. Yes, like Courtney said, we don't recognize Juneteenth in Canada. You know, again, to the work Jeane Augustin did, and you know, kind of in the line that I'm going, I think there are some problems or some challenges that are bigger than one person. COVID being an example, right? It takes a government, it takes a group of people to say, hey, we want to put our foot down on something like this, or we want to recognize something like this. And you know, for me, it might sound biased, but for me, more than recognition, I think action is what matters. You know, you can recognize Juneteenth all you want, and if you keep on killing George Floyd, it doesn't really make any sense, right? So for me, I'm not too pushed on the recognition in Canada. For me, I would rather we have more action results. Kind of speaking to what I mentioned earlier, that the world doesn't care about your degree; it cares about the value you bring, the problems you solve, the results you bring. And I'll give the credit where the credit is due. Like I put in the chat, Prime Minister Trudeau did come together and recognize the government of Canada the decade for people of African descent, which is something, again, when I say a problem is bigger than one person. Canada, I think, is maybe one of maybe 2, 3, 4 max countries out of all the countries in the world that recognize the decade for people of African descent. That tells you a lot about other countries. So again, what we care more about is action. And at least one thing I do know that happened when we talk about economic prosperity, is there was, I think it was about $221 million released in funding for the Black community in Canada. And that's being dispersed, I think, as we speak. So more than just recognition in Canada, what matters is results, actions, and also creating opportunities for economic prosperity and to reduce the barriers to access, the community. Hope that gives a little bit of light to the question.
Yeah, that was a wonderful answer. Thank you. We only have a couple minutes left here, so I would just like to open it up. Do either of you guys have any last words of wisdom or any last ideas that you'd like to share with everybody before we let them go?
I'll let Courtney go if she wants to say anything. I don't know if she does.
Courtney, do you have any last ideas you'd like to share with everybody?
Nothing in particular, but I would say that if you don't have a VSA at your school, again, advocate for it. There are people in your school that you just need to find that will be a support system to you, and just be the change that you want to see. You can be that leader, and I can say that I have friends in my community, I have peers that are like me and have been that leader. Maybe you're not as vocal as me and you're not an amazing public speaker, but you can be in the background being that leader. You don't have to be the forefront. You don't have to be the head of a protest. You can be in the background and make that change. It doesn't have to be front line. there's always somebody working in the back. There's a CEO, but there's people that work for him. You could be the CEO and you can, or you could be the worker, or you just, there's a way to make change. Okay. There's a way to make change. You don't have to be the face of everything. There's small steps you can take to be a leader and make change. And BSA, BSA, BSA. If your school doesn't have one, they need one. If you don't remember anything, remember that. Okay.
Amazing, amazing, Courtney. Yeah, like Courtney said, if you don't have a BSA, so the BSA I think is extremely important, and I love what Courtney, what you're doing with the BSA. I think awareness is one of the most important things when it comes to creating change. So if we're able to get into all the schools in Canada and have a BSA, even if it's 2-3 people in the BSA, but the school knows that there's a BSA, it creates an awareness. It creates that knowledge for people to know that, hey, there's something called the Black Student Association, and it's all about helping people of African descent. So I agree with what Courtney says. If you didn't remember anything from this call, remember that word, BSA. But from my side, I think if I could wrap more than a month, Black History Month, in a few sentences, it is that as young people, regardless of our age, where we're located, where we're from, our experience, our inexperience, whatever gaps we have, what we're still learning, we are all what I would say spirits inside a human body, like that brand, which is United Souls. At the end of the day, regardless of our skin color, we are more than what we look like, right? There's a part of us that feels this emotion when we see another human being. So just having that empathy, I think it's something that, if you want to take away from our conversation today, when you're in a situation with maybe someone of African descent and, maybe you're witnessing something, tap into that inner being that has that empathy, that can feel that emotion, that can feel the pain, and do something about it, because you have the power to create change. Thank you very much. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate having me here. It was an honor being here.
Thank you very much. I really
before I go,
yep.
Sorry, someone is meant to win $50 today.
Oh yeah.
We can't forget about that. Yes. So this is the interesting thing. I didn't tell you what it was that would qualify to win the $50, but it's going to be an important point, and maybe more important than what I said before, for your journey for education. If anybody can show me, maybe on a piece of paper or in the chat, the notes that they took of this meeting, what Courtney said, what I said, if you took notes, not you stored it in your head. If you took notes, I see one person. Okay.
Jan from India is showing us some notes that he took on his phone. I see Spruce Grove Comp has some notes as well.
Grove, 2 notes. Okay. Do we have any more notes? So that's $50 right there. 25, 25. Okay. Do we have any notes? Any notes? Oh, we got more notes. I'm in trouble. Okay. So that's 3. Anybody? Any more notes? No more notes? Okay, going once. Going twice? Okay, gone. So 3. Rebecca, if you could just help me take note of everyone who has notes. I think we had 2 from Sprucedale. Was it Spruce Grove?
We've got Dravansh Singh from India, and we've got Spruce Grove Comp. Yes,
awesome. I think what we can do is, for each person who actually took notes, I can do the $50 to each of them. So we can figure that out behind the scenes.
Sure, yeah, I can send them an email after this and we can figure something out.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Congratulations. Congratulations on your gift, your prize, your award. I did that because I learned early on that note takers are money makers. So if you take notes, apparently you're gonna make money. So it starts today. It starts today. So great
Awesome.
job. Congratulations.
Hey, thanks, guys. Sorry, we did go over a couple minutes, so I know a few of you guys had to pop out, but I do want to thank one more time all of our presenters for coming. This was very inspiring. You guys all did absolutely wonderful. If you guys have more questions about some of the things that were talked about today, feel free to go to that website that I shared earlier, Youth in Diaspora. That's Arthur's website. And that's all that we have for you guys today. So thanks again, everybody, for showing up, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.